So in chapter 13, we discuss copyright. Copyright is a very important and valuable thing in today's society because it protects IPs and people's works of arts and patents and things of that nature. Basically, copyright, like I just previously stated, protects literary works, books, poetry, computer programs, musical works, spoken words, dramatic works, inventions, sound recordings, motion pictures, and to be copyrightable, the work must be fixed in a tangible medium of expression, meaning the work must be written down or recorded in some tangible way. That's the book's definition, the book Electronic Media Law by Roger Sadler. And that the difference between that and a trademark is a trademark basically trademarks logos, symbols, things that represent a certain brand. So that's mainly the main difference. And the 6 basic rights of copyright according to the 1976 copyright law is reproduction, distribution, derivative works, public performance, public display, and public digital performance of a sound recording. These are very important because the copyright holder can make audio recordings, so on and so forth, distribute it out the way they would like to. Derivative works based on the original, public performance, things of that nature. So it goes pretty deep in as far as what's what. So basically, in this chapter, we learned several things, several court cases that appeal to it. But the thing that kind of separates copyright, in my opinion, is the use of public domain and fair use. The public domain means it's basically fair game for anybody to use. And that's usually for works that are over 100 years old. Things like Mozart, Beethoven, Socrates. Those things are considered public domain because they were set before copyright was even thought of. For example, Happy Birthday is copyrighted and it's not in the public domain, but its copyright will expire. It will expire in like 2030. So anytime somebody uses Happy Birthday, they're basically stealing it. If they're doing it, for money, you can do it in a public setting only if it's around family and friends. And as far that harkens into public performance, basically. Basically, the 3 basic rights are performance rights, mechanical rights, and synchronization rights. Let's see what else. Harkening back onto that as well, fair use. Fair use is fairly important. Definition of fair use and sampling in the book is fair use doctrine is self-explanatory. It's really broken down into like 4 sects. The nature of the work, the purpose of the use, the amount of work used, and the effect of the use on the value of marketability of the copyrighted work. So basically that's just saying that the nature of the work, is it in the public domain? The purpose, are you using it, for gain or for personal satisfaction? The amount of work used, you can only use a certain amount, maybe an excerpt of 10 to 30 seconds, just depending on how you're using it. And the effect on its marketability of the original work. So basically that's saying if you put out, a spin-off or a parody of a work, is it going to affect the work's sale from then on? In the Sony versus Universal case of 1984, the Supreme Court ruled for Sony after applying each of those criteria that I just stated. In that case, a VCR Betamax technology had caused certain people to copy different works and distribute it out. So they're just basically saying, based on those criteria, that it was pretty much wrong for them to do it. That goes into anything from like using movie clips and news stories. Everything has to be caught up with the copyright rules. That's why the DMCA, or the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, is so important because it keeps the copyright laws and regulations up to date and fresh. And that was passed in 1998 by the United States Congress. So throughout this chapter and the different court cases, we found that copyright infringement is a very serious crime. You have to be kept up, especially in this if you're going into this industry. You have to be caught up and well versed on the copyright laws. For instance, in Campbell versus Ape Cuff Rose Music Inc. is when Luther Campbell had made a parody of a song "Pretty Woman" off of Roy Orbison's 1964 classic "Oh Pretty Woman," and they found basically that because it was a parody and it didn't really cause any harm to the work's original purpose, that it was fair use and that it wouldn't have an effect on the market basically for the song. So basically, that's pretty much it. Everything else is self-explanatory, I would think. So, in conclusion, copyright is very serious. You have to be up on your P's and Q's when it comes down to it. You have to get permission, depending on how you're using it. That's why people like Weird Al Yankovic and several others, can do what they do.